Hi, this is Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the President, Founder, and Chief Listening Officer here at our network at USA Global TV and Radio. Thank you so much for your loyalty. Thank you so much to all of our guests, to our team members, to our sponsors, and to all of our elevated listeners. Here at USA Global TV and Radio, we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. We celebrate all of our team members, all of our guests, and all of our sponsors from around the world who come and lead their lives with their hearts to help other people walk into their greatness. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, please go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, and book your session. Please contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com and subscribe to our channel.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. My name is Caroline Heward. Our show today is Talking Heads. I'm an expert presenter on today's topic, which is suffering from burnout. And it's part of the Mind and Body Connection series. Let's begin. I'd like to start off with a quote from Sam Keen, which I found it was really interesting the way that he portrayed burnout. Burnout is nature's way of telling you you've been going through the motions. Your soul has departed. You're a zombie, a member of the walking dead, a sleepwalker. False optimism is like administering stimulants to an exhausted nervous system. Let me just say that again, because there's a lot of things in there which is actually really deep. Burnout is nature's way of telling you you've been going through the motions. Your soul has departed. You're a zombie, a member of the walking dead, a sleepwalker. False optimism is like administering stimulants to an exhausted nervous system. Sam Keen. I always like to set the scene as to how the session will unfold. I'll have to follow on with another quote by Michael Gungor. Burnout is what happens when you try to avoid being human for too long. So this is not looking at specifically the medical stuff. This is looking at you, the person, the human beingness of what happens when you suffer with burnout. So I'm not looking at the moment, I'm looking at everything around how it affects you as a human being, because you become a human doing. So let's just explore burnout with all the topics that come up from burnout. So when somebody says they're suffering with burnout, or maybe they're not sure that they're suffering with burnout, but these are the sort of words that are bandied about. So it's about the business, you feel overworked, you're a worker, a lifestyle is leading you to burnout. You're stressed. Yes, you're stressed. You're functional, but not experiencing. Maybe your health suffers. Maybe you might be labelled as a workaholic. Maybe you might have a background that talks about burnout. Maybe your topics of conversation is burnout. What about your efficiency, your efficacy in doing the work that you do? Your career, your manager, overwhelm. I'd really like to explore in this presentation overwhelm. Overwhelm in terms of how everything just becomes too much. Overload. You're in overload. Now, many people confuse stress and burnout, so I thought that this was a good place to really explore burnout versus stress. So when you're stressed, there will be a hyper intensity, there will be an over engagement, doing many things, your to-do lists. You'll have a schedule in place, and there'll be very much a hyperactivity in your activities, not only in your work, in your personal life as well. Everything will be almost diarised, an appointment. You'll even almost have to make an appointment with yourself. That this is an over-commitment. And when you're looking at burnout is the complete opposite. It's a lack of engagement. It's when everything becomes so overwhelming that you just lack the engagement of getting involved. So there'll be an apathy. There will be a disconnection of engagement in the activities. There will be going through the motions but not feeling any of it. So in stress, there will be an overactive emotional experience where there'll be a hyperactivity in the emotions. There will be an urgency of getting stuff done. It has to be done, and it's done today. It's done yesterday. There will be this incessant need for the urgency and the hypersensitivity of now. And the now drives the emotions into an overdrive of getting stuff done. And so the emotions will be very in the place of an urgency. Everything will have an urgency about it. In burnout, the emotions are blunted. They are not experienced in the same way as in stress. It will be a disengagement of the emotions almost, where you've moved beyond the emotional feel. And because you've moved beyond it, there is no emotion. There is simply the doing. In stress, there will be a total energy drain. You will feel physically drained from the adrenal gland. Now, the adrenal gland is where the base of the spine meets the genital area. That's the adrenal gland in the chakra system. And this is where the adrenaline is stored. Or for people that are stressed, no adrenaline. So you'll be working on your adrenals, but not actually having the resource. So this is what makes you feel totally drained of energy. So there'll be a physicalness of the exhaustion. Whereas with burnout, there is a motivational drain. There is an apathy of moving forward in the things that you do. So there will be a lack of commitment in the motivation to get things done. So you can start to see that stress is like sort of the intensity, and burnout is the de-intensity of the experiences. It's almost like a numbing down of the experiences. Let's look at a little bit more. So I've mentioned hyperactivity because when we're very active in an activity, there is a hyperintensity of activity which produces hyperactivity in your experiences. In burnout, it's producing the absolute opposite. It produces a hopelessness. It produces a lethargy. It produces a not caring attitude of getting things done. In stress, it leads to anxiety because when you're stressing about future things, future experiences, future meetings, future things that you have to do, when you're looking at future things, the mind is preoccupied in a level of anxiety and not being present in this moment because it's always focused on the to-do list, the what has to be done, in the future tense rather than in the moment that you're in. In burnout, it leads to detachment. You see the difference. When I was studying this and looking at this, so often people assume that burnout is stress, but they're very different in terms of the way that they look, the way that they feel, and the experience on the person when they're experiencing burnout. It's almost like a moving back and away. So the detachment is that you're not attached to anything, anyone, or any outcome. So that will make you look quite peaceful, almost, like you're not engaged. The primary thing about stress is that it's all physical. Everything that you do has a physicality about it. The timing, the deadlines, the activity. Whereas in burnout, the primary is emotional. It will be the detachment, the hopelessness, the helplessness that you feel. It will be leading to a state of depression, whereas the stress leads you to an experience that could lead you to depression. Anxiety. So again, let's look at stress versus burnout. When you're stressed, you actually can have an off switch where you can literally be stressed on, switch off. And when you flick the off switch, that's when you make decisions to rest, to eat, to sleep, to socialize, to engage in external things outside of what's causing you your stress. Whereas when you're experiencing burnout, this is quite a different experience. There is no off switch. There is a dimmer switch. So you raise it up or you dim it down. But the symptoms are still there. You've just dimmed them down slightly. Now, there are 5 stages of burnout, and I want to explore these. The first stage is the honeymoon stage, which is, if we look at a job, for instance, that you go into your new job and you're full of the joys. You have huge enthusiasm for the deadlines, the targets, what you want to achieve. It has all the recipe of making you feel fired up and raring to go. This can actually be in a marriage too, as well as in your family, that there's a firing up, a honeymoon period of everything being wonderful. And everything is. That could be aligned to parenthood as well. A new baby. It can be the honeymoon period is when you're feeling really emotionally enthusiastic about everything because it's all new and it's exciting and it's highly elating. And that honeymoon period can last as long as it lasts, for different people. Some people can be in that honeymoon period for months before they will move into the second stage of burnout. But this is an early stage of burnout where you're full on and full into the experience of the experience. So you're really there, giving it all you've got, physically, emotionally, mentally, behaviourally. Everything is what you sleep, eat, think about, and dream about. Now, the second stage is the onset of stagnation. And this is something that's quite different. And it's still, again, it's very early. And so, it's not looking so severe. And the onset of stagnation is when you will move into a place of apathy about the results. There will be a questioning of you as what you're doing, and there will be a questioning of not feeling satisfied with who you're being and what you're doing and the results, your performance in whatever activity. There will be a questioning of, am I good enough? Am I worthy? Is this right for me? But in this place of stagnation, emotionally, you will still keep going. You will still keep plugging through the physicality of all the experiences. Stage 3 is the chronic stage of where frustration sets in. This is where it becomes challenging to the point that frustration is the early onset of anger. So when you're feeling frustrated with something, this is the first stage before anger. So frustration is where you're getting tetchy with yourself, with other people, where you're frustrated with your results, we're not getting anywhere. Remembering that this is the next stage from the stagnation, that you're questioning what your performance is, what it's doing. So you still put in all that enthusiasm, you're doing all that stuff that you were doing in the honeymoon period, but stagnation sets in, and then frustration because you're not getting the results, you're not feeling it. It's not giving you what you had in the honeymoon period. And so that brings you into a place of frustration, which is the early onset of anger. And then we move into a stage of burnout, stage 4. And burnout is when you've gone through the honeymoon, you've gone through the onset of stagnation, the frustration, and then you go into the place of apathy, the place of where is it all worth it? So this is where you become detached. This is where you become uncomfortable with where you are. So you become detached in terms of your feelings, your emotions, your actions. You stop being in it all. And it also then affects your physical body. This can affect you physically in terms of the digestive system, because in the digestive system, this is where we either digest what's going on or not digest what's going on. So all sorts of ailments can come up, such as headaches, for instance, where the mind is constantly going and yet we're not getting anywhere. So we are preoccupied with results but actually not feeling them. So it can give you headaches, sleep problems, and the physicalness of the body not being able to cope can affect the digestive disorders. And the final stage of burnout is habitual, where this is, and you will notice people will say this, no, it's just the way it is. This is how life is. I'm on it. This will be where they're really on, and they're very rarely off the pedal. And I recognize this because when I was in corporate, I was very an on it person, where I was just constantly going. I had always more than enough to do. There was never enough time or enough hours in the day. I could have done with a 48-hour day to get everything that I wanted done, or a 10-day week to get everything done. And this is what happens with somebody that is in the habitual stage, is that the week is never long enough and the list is never completed. And that becomes a situation of leading you to that apathy and that physical distress in the body, that it's constantly driving and not getting the results that you had and experienced in the honeymoon period. And this is the place for intervention. This is the place where, because it's become your habit, it's become your norm, this is the place where it's important to seek advice, help, and a place where you can go into restoration. Because if it's become a habit, it's become your norm. And then how do you move out of your norm if this is how it is? And so it's important to seek external opinion, advice, seek a therapist to help you see, recognize, because when you become witness, this is how you change your experiences. When you become a witness, this is when you can make changes. But a habit is something that you're doing without witnessing. It's something that you're doing. It's a behavioural pattern. That when you witness it, you become aware. And in a state of awareness, this is the place that you can make change. You cannot change what you're not aware of because you've normalized it out. I've spoken to people before now that have said that they've had low back pain for 10, 20 years. That's just the way that it is. No, it's not. There's something very wrong there. It's not right. But we've normalized it. And when we normalize something, we then can't deal with it because we've accepted that that's our norm and that's our suffering. So here's some early red flags of burnout. You'll feel very drained. So remember I was talking about it affects your adrenal gland, where the root chakra is, and that's your reserve or non-reserve of energy. And because you're constantly in your non-reserve of energy in the adrenal gland, you will just be driving on empty. So you will feel perpetually tired and drained. Now, when you're not feeding the adrenal gland, nourishing it, this is where it can cause you an overload of being drained and tired, where when you go to bed at night and you're exhausted physically, when you lie down, what happens is the blood flows freely from the head down to the feet, toes, and then it oxygenates your body. But when you wake up in the morning, you wake up feeling tired. And the reason for that is that when you're experiencing burnout, the mind is constantly going. If you're either stressed or in burnout, the mind is constantly going. And so this is about finding the off switch so the mind calms. Other early signs affect the body physically, like headaches, where again, the mind hasn't switched off. And so the head literally aches with all the thoughts. It's an overdrive of thoughts. And because you haven't found the off switch, the head aches with all the thinking and all the thoughts. Pain. You'll start to feel physical pain in your body, maybe back pain, neck pain. And depending on where it is, will be related to issues within this experience of burnout that you're not dealing with emotionally. Maybe muscle pain, muscle cramps. And these are all indicators of the fact that the body is not being nourished in the way it needs to be. There will be an experience of a change in sleep patterns. So what I mean by that is if you normally sleep 8 hours, that you go to bed, but you're not sleeping, you're in bed and restless, or you might be oversleeping. So either too much sleeping or not enough sleeping, or going to bed, but actually just not resting. It may change your appetite, where you might be comfort eating or not eating. Or it might be that you have no appetite at all. It might be that you're firing on all cylinders, drinking coffee or stimulant drinks such as Red Bull, for instance. And in this space, you'll be driving your body on empty. There will be a feeling of self-doubt, of not being good enough, almost to the point for some of a failure in delivering what they want to deliver. So that optimism experience of the honeymoon period will set in as a feeling of not being good enough and the fear of failing, which pushes you. This can lead you into the experience of being quite negative with yourself, with your co-workers, with your family, with your friends, your community, anyone that's around you, that you will always see the not so good side of something, someone, some event, some situation or circumstance. Now here's a really, really nice one, transference. Have you ever been in a room with somebody and you're okay, but they come in and you're literally almost shaking in your boots, you're quaking. And suddenly, when they've left you, you are feeling stressed, highly stressed, to the point of burnout. And this is called transference. This is where somebody else is experiencing the burnout, but they're not owning it, so they just dump it on you. And some people take it on, because if you're empathic and you feel other people, sometimes you take it on because you think it's yours. And this will lead you to even more states of negativity and feeling pessimistic about your future, your experiences in life, and the experience that you're experiencing in that moment. This will lead to an overdrive of not coping. And it will lead some people into coping mechanisms that are more destructive than helpful. Now, when you're not feeling in control of a situation or an event or a circumstance that you find yourself in, or an experience that you're experiencing, sort of feeling that you have all the responsibility but none of the control, this affects the solar plexus. And the solar plexus is all about your self-esteem, your control, your power in a situation. And for some, there may be, as a coping mechanism, a reach out for drugs, whether they be prescribed medicine drugs or whether they be recreational substances. There may be a reliance on that glass of wine every night, or that bottle of wine, or that pint of beer or lager, or that short glass of whiskey and gin, or whatever your tipple is. And you might be passing off as, it just relaxes me. I just have one glass, or a couple, or I go to the bar at the end of my day, or I go to the pub, or I just like to zone out on recreational substances, because it relaxes my day, it relaxes my week. It's a good thing to do at the weekend. These will be the kinds of statements that you will be either saying to yourself or you will hear someone saying as an early red flag that this is a coping mechanism that's not actually helping you in the way that you need. That's important because it's not that it doesn't help in some ways, because you will feel a level of relaxation from these types of coping mechanisms. They don't deal with the problem. They actually feed the lack of control even more. And so if you've used any of these coping mechanisms, they can even turn to food as well, like comfort eating, not eating. It can, sort of all sorts of habits that move out of the lack of feeling in control and wishing to cope. So smoking comes into that as well. So there's all sorts of ways that you may use that will be detrimental to you experiencing a true coping mechanism that works. So let's look at overcoming burnout. One of the things I want to look at is self-compassion, because burnout is all external to you. It's focusing on everything that's external and being everything to everything and everyone. And so overcoming burnout is when you move that focus onto yourself. You move that focus and intention of what your needs are, whether you need to take a break, whether you need to rest, whether you need a day off, whether you need to take some time and socialize with friends. This is the self-reflection perspective of compassion, having compassion for yourself. This is a feeding yourself first rather than the other thing or the other person or the other work that's affecting you and creating burnout. This is all about boundaries, where the boundaries are so blurred, they're so out there that everybody's walking in on your boundaries. And that's because you've become a yes person. You've become a yes person. And so everybody's expecting you to do what you're saying that you can do. And in a work situation, which is not good, and at the same time, this happens, a willing horse is always the one that's asked first, because they never say no until it becomes too much and they have burnt out, literally. And so when you create good, firm boundaries, your times, when you're available, tell people when you're available rather than when you're not available. Because if you say to people, I'm not available during this time and this time, so when do you want to speak? You can absolutely bet your bottom dollar they are going to call you and they will want to speak to you in the time that you're not available. So focus and give people the understanding of when you are available and the type of communication that works for you. Some people like text. Some people like voice calls. Some people haven't got time for voice calls. Some people like voice messages because it's quick. Some people like Messenger. Some people like email. Some people like an interaction that's face-to-face. We're all different. But if you are a person that prefers a voicemail and somebody's trying to get a face-to-face meeting with you, you don't have the time to do a face-to-face meeting. Can you see how conflicting that can be for you and the other person? So to set good boundaries for you so that you can meet all the things that you require for yourself. So you get to look after yourself as well as every other thing and everyone. It's important to look after your body and your mind. And what I mean by looking after your body, I mean nourishment, feeding it good things, rather than grabbing that quick cup of coffee to keep you going, rather than skipping breakfast, lunch, having a very late dinner. This has huge impacts on the body because the body feels starved. It feels like it's not being nourished. So it will hold on to the food once it gets something because it's not sure when the next meal is coming. It's very sensitive, our body is, and it needs nourishment. It needs the good stuff, the right nutrients at the right times. And if there isn't time to do that, then the body will suffer. It's like running a car on empty. If you don't top it up with petrol, if you don't top it up with oil, and if you don't have that regular maintenance check, it stops functioning well. So it's important to have some kind of physical regime, exercise. It's important to look after the body in every way possible, to rest, to sleep, to nourish it nutritionally, and to feed it with good things. The mind. sometimes you get preoccupied with the negative in life. Let's face it, when you put the news on, it's full of very negative coverage. If you read a newspaper from cover to cover, it's full of very negative coverage and news items. To feed your mind positively, yes, you need to know what's going on, but you don't need to be in overload of what's going on. You just need the information to be informed rather than making it everything that you feed the mind with. So feed the mind positively. Feed the mind with good, positive thoughts. If you're feeding the mind with, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, your self-esteem issues, the mind will then create negative feelings from the thoughts. So it's really important to feed the mind positively, genuinely, and kindly. There is a saying that we wouldn't treat our enemies worse than we treat ourselves in terms of our own negative inner talk. People aren't saying those negative things about us. We are our own worst enemy. Reflect on your day and have a gratitude journal. I love this concept of a gratitude journal and reflecting at the end of your day of all the good things that happened, all the good things that you achieved, experienced. Because when you do that, when you focus on what you're grateful for, it's kind of fascinating what happens. Because if you reflect on the things that you're grateful for, the universe has this very powerful effect of giving you more of what you're grateful for. It also works in the negative aspect as well. If you're focused on the negative, what you're not grateful for, all the negative stuff that's affecting you, you will get more of the negative stuff. So overcoming burnout, to reflect on the good stuff, because there is good stuff. And if you have a gratitude journal, find at least 3 to 5 things each day at the end of your day and write them down of what you're grateful for. It's very powerful in moving you out of that negative mind experience and negative feelings into a more positive and higher vibration. Empowerment versus blame. When you empower yourself of all the things that have been good, and for other people, when you're speaking about other people, when you come from a place of empowerment, you literally move to a place of a higher vibration in your body. And when you're in a higher vibration, you achieve more. When you're in a place of survival, you achieve less. So when you're in the place of blame and shame, it is a much lower survival vibration. And when you're in the blaming game, nothing comes of that apart from more blame and more of what you are blaming and shaming about. I know it's fascinating, isn't it? We don't realize this. What are you focused on? And if you're focused on all that negative aspect of what's not working and he did this and she did that, when you're focused externally to you and saying and pointing your finger at the other person, what happens is it disempowers you. It takes away your power and your control. And we don't even realize that we're doing it when we get going on it. When we really, really get going on it, it's everyone's fault. We literally take away our power. When we own what's happened, we can then change it. We can then decide to do something differently. And the big thing that I want to really leave you with is having permission Give yourself permission to be human. You know, there are many times that we don't allow ourselves to make mistakes. Did you know to err is to be human? It's okay to make a mistake or to not do everything to the state of your perfectionism. It's okay not to get everything 100% completely right. It's about an experience. We are spirit in a physical body having a human emotional experience. And it's okay to err, to make an error. So it's not about perfection. Perfection can drive you to distraction. It's about stepping in, having a go, and if it didn't work, being okay, because we learn more from our mistakes than we do from getting everything right. There's a quote from Richard Louv. Time spent in nature is the most cost-effective and powerful way to counteract the burnout and sort out the depression that we feel when we sit in front of a computer all day. Richard Louv. It's powerful, isn't it? Stepping out from the computer, stepping out from your screen, your phone screen, and stepping out into nature. It has an incredible effect just to feel the sun in your face and the wind in your hair. And to hear the birds sing makes you feel different. It's like an uplift and takes you out of the mind and out of the place of depression. This is an extraordinary and powerful mantra. Now, mantras are Sanskrit, which is a very old language. It's older than any religion. It doesn't belong to a religion, a culture, or a people. Sanskrit mantra is an extraordinary old language that has incredible, powerful results. The sounds, the vibration of the words can make changes. This mantra is so powerful in removing obstacles. If you find yourself in a place of feeling a discomfort in overcoming lots of obstacles, not getting anywhere, climbing over every obstacle, this is a mantra that I recommend that you use. The invitation to use this mantra is so powerful in what it can do for you. The yogis use this mantra for enlightened and heightened spiritual insight and awareness. This mantra can clear your consciousness and allow you to see things that you just couldn't see before. I use Sanskrit mantras in my daily life, and this mantra is a gift. I invite you to use it. The words are Om Gam Gana Pataye Namaha. Om Gam Gana Pataye Namaha. Actually, as it looks, if you break it down, Om Gam Gana Pataye Namaha. And you can chant this, sing along to some music, and you will feel a difference. It's very powerful. It will change your state of being. It will change your vibration. Om Gam Gana Pataye Namaha. Om Gam Gana Pataye Namaha. Om Gam Gana Pataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Sing it along to a tune. Drum to it. Sing and repeat the words. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. If this is recited 108 times, it shifts your vibration, it shifts your intention, and it changes your experiences. It's magical. The yogis know this, and I wanted to share this with you, because when you feel that everything is in your way, Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha can shift you into another experience and overcome your obstacles. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. I'd like to finish on a quote from the Dalai Lama. In dealing with those who are undergoing great suffering, if you feel burnout setting in, if you feel demoralized and exhausted, it is best for the sake of everyone to withdraw and restore yourself. The point is to have a long-term perspective. Look ahead. Thank you for your attention and your interest. Please subscribe to USA Global TV and Radio. You can find all of our Talking Heads episodes under the playlist entitled Talking Heads 2023. And last year's Talking Heads episodes are all there too, under my name, Caroline Heward. Please do reach out to me if I may be of service to you. You can contact me on email, nomorestress@live.co.uk, or call +44 if you're international, 0 if you're local, 7523 120 189. I offer a free Zoom or Skype consultation to identify the root cause of one symptom. I'm sure you'd love to know more and would like more symptoms resolved, and we can organise a package to allow that to be facilitated. Please do reach out, because you will literally bust your stress in that consultation and move from your thinking, conversational mind to a place of calm and inner peace. My gift to you, reach out, and I would love to be in service to you. Thank you. Namaste.